Welcome to the sleep hours, the only place where cartoons fall asleep before you do. So grab your blanket, tuck in your favorite plushie, and let's get weird. Tonight we drift into the soft, familiar world of We Bare Bears. But something about this night feels a little different. The city is quieter than usual, the lights a little dimmer, and somewhere beyond the rooftops, a gentle rain is beginning to fall. So settle in, get comfortable, and let this story carry you slowly into rest as we follow the bears through a night where the rain doesn't just fall, it remembers. It started like any other quiet evening, the kind that didn't ask for much. Inside their cave, the air felt warm and still, wrapped in that soft silence that only comes after a long day. Grizz was sprawled across the floor, lazily flipping through channels that barely held his attention, the glow of the TV flickering gently across the walls. Panda sat nearby, half curled with his phone, occasionally smiling at something on the screen before sighing in that quiet, thoughtful way he often did. An ice bear stood in the small kitchen space, moving with calm precision as he prepared something warm, the faint clink of utensils blending into the background like a rhythm the cave had memorized. Outside, the city stretched on as it always did, but tonight it felt slower. The distant hum of cars softened, conversations faded quicker into the night air, and even the wind seemed to move more gently between the buildings. It was the kind of night that didn't rush anything, as if the world itself had decided to take a breath. And then, almost unnoticed at first, the rain began. It wasn't loud. There was no dramatic shift, no sudden downpour crashing against the earth, just a soft, steady tapping against the cave's window, like fingertips brushing lightly against glass. Panda was the first to glance up, his eyes lingering on the faint trails forming along the surface. For a moment, he simply watched, his expression softening as the outside world blurred into streaks of silver and shadow. Grizz barely looked away from the TV at first, only muttering something about the weather before stretching out further, completely at ease. Nights like this were his favorite, even if he didn't say it out loud. There was something about the rain that made everything feel closer, quieter, like the world outside didn't matter as much. Ice Bear, however, paused. It was subtle, the smallest hesitation in his movement, as he placed the cup down on the counter. His gaze shifted, just slightly toward the window. The sound of the rain had settled into the cave now, weaving itself into every corner, gentle and constant. For a moment, he simply listened. Something about it felt different. Not wrong, not loud, just unfamiliar in a way that was hard to explain, like hearing a song you almost recognized but couldn't quite place. Ice Bear's eyes lingered on the glass a second longer before he turned back, continuing what he was doing as if nothing had happened. The three of them didn't know it yet, but this wasn't just another rainy night. Because outside, beyond the glass, each drop that touched the earth carried something more than water, something quiet, something unseen, something that had been waiting patiently for a night, just like this. And as the rain continued to fall, steady and calm, the night began to change in a way that none of them would notice, not just yet. The rain settled into a rhythm that felt almost intentional, like it knew exactly how softly to fall. Each drop traced slow, careful paths down the window, blending into one another before disappearing into the darkness below. Panda found himself watching those trails longer than he meant to, his phone slowly lowering into his lap as his attention drifted elsewhere. There was something calming about it, but also something that held his focus just a little too tightly. He leaned forward slightly, resting his chin against his hand as he followed one particular droplet. It moved slower than the others, pausing for just a second before continuing downward as if it were hesitating. Panda blinked, his brows knitting together just a little. For a brief moment, he felt something. Not a thought exactly. Not even a full memory. Just a feeling. Soft and distant, like trying to remember a dream right after waking up. It brushed past him so lightly he almost missed it, leaving behind a faint sense of familiarity that didn't quite belong to the present. He straightened a little, glancing around the room as if expecting something to have changed, but everything was the same. The TV still flickered quietly. Grizz still lay across the floor, now half watching, half dozing. Ice Bear moved calmly, pouring something warm into 3 cups without a single wasted motion. Panda exhaled softly, shaking his head just a little as if to clear it. Probably nothing, he murmured under his breath, though even he wasn't fully convinced. Across the room, Grizz let out a quiet yawn, stretching his arms above his head before lazily rolling onto his side. His eyes drifted toward the window for only a second before settling back on the TV. But even in that quick glance, something about the rain caught his attention. It shimmered slightly under the faint city lights, not brightly, but just enough to feel noticeable. "Hey," Grizz muttered, his voice low and relaxed. "Rain's kind of nice tonight, huh?" Panda nodded absent-mindedly, though his gaze was still fixed on the glass. "Yeah, it feels different." Grizz hummed in response, not questioning it further. Different wasn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it just meant the night had something new to offer. Ice Bear approached quietly, setting a warm cup down beside each of them. Steam curled gently upward, adding to the softness of the room. He didn't say anything at first, simply standing there for a moment as he too looked toward the window. The rain continued, steady and calm. But now it felt like it was being noticed. Ice Bear's eyes narrowed ever so slightly, not in concern, but in quiet observation. He watched the droplets as they gathered and fell, his expression unreadable, as if he were listening to something no one else could hear. And then, just as quickly, he stepped back. "Ice Bear made tea," he said simply, his voice calm and even, as if the moment hadn't lingered at all. Grizz pushed himself up slightly, reaching for the cup with a grateful grin. "Oh, thanks, bro. Perfect weather for this." Panda followed, wrapping his hands around the warmth, though his attention still wandered back to the rain every few seconds. Outside, the city lights blurred further as the rain grew just a little heavier, though it never lost that softness. The world beyond the window felt distant, almost dreamlike, as if it were slowly being tucked away. And within that quiet, steady fall, something began to take shape. Not in a way that could be seen. Not yet. But in the spaces between each drop, in the silence they carried with them, something was beginning to surface. Something gentle, something patient, something that was almost ready to be remembered. The warmth of the tea slowly spread through the room, blending with the soft hush of the rain until everything felt wrapped in a quiet kind of comfort. Grizz took a long sip, sighing in contentment as he leaned back, the tension of the day melting away without him even realizing it. Panda held his cup closer, letting the warmth settle into his hands, his gaze still drifting toward the window as if something there kept calling him back. It was subtle, but it was there. That same faint feeling, like a memory sitting just out of reach. Outside, the rain continued its steady rhythm, but now it seemed almost layered. Some drops fell faster, others slower, and for just a moment, Panda could have sworn one of them moved against the pattern entirely. His eyes followed it again, more carefully this time, his breath slowing without him meaning to. And then it happened again. That soft, passing feeling, Only this time, it stayed just a second longer. A quiet echo of laughter. Not loud, not clear, just enough to feel like it belonged to him. Panda's fingers tightened slightly around his cup. His eyes blinked a few times, his expression shifting into something more focused now. He wasn't just watching anymore. He was trying to understand. "Did you guys, he started softly before trailing off. Grizz glanced over lazily. "Hmm?" Panda hesitated and then shook his head. "Nothing. I just thought Never mind." Grizz gave a small shrug, not pressing further, but Ice Bear's gaze flickered toward Panda for a brief moment. Not questioning, just noticing. The rain tapped gently against the glass again. Steady, calm, patient. Panda exhaled slowly and leaned back, trying to relax into the moment again. Maybe it really was just the weather. Nights like this had a way of making everything feel more reflective, more distant. It wasn't strange to think about things you hadn't in a while, and yet, this didn't feel like remembering. It felt like something was being given back. Across the room, Grizz shifted again, this time sitting up a little straighter. His eyes drifted toward the window once more, lingering there longer than before. There was no clear reason for it, no sudden thought that pulled him there, just a quiet instinct. The rain shimmered faintly again, just for a second. Grizz blinked. It slipped out without him thinking. Panda looked over. "What?" Grizz rubbed the back of his head, still staring at the glass. "I don't know. I just thought I saw something." "Like what?" Grizz paused, trying to find the right words, but nothing quite fit. It wasn't a shape. It wasn't a reflection. It wasn't anything he could point to. "Just something," he said finally, his voice softer now. The room fell quiet again after that. Not uncomfortable, just still. Ice Bear stood near the counter, his posture relaxed, but his attention was no longer on what he had been doing. His gaze rested fully on the window now, steady and focused, as if he were watching something unfold in slow motion. The rain hadn't changed. Not really, it was still soft, still steady. But now it felt like it was waiting. And somewhere deep within that quiet rhythm, just beneath the sound of each drop touching the glass, something was beginning to press a little closer to the surface. Not fully formed, not fully understood, but closer than before. And for the first time that night, none of them looked away. No one said anything for a while after that. The kind of silence that settled between them wasn't empty. It was full, gently filled with the sound of rain tapping against glass, and the quiet warmth of being together without needing to speak. Grizz held his cup loosely now. His usual restless energy softened into something slower, something quieter, as his eyes remained fixed on the window without fully realizing why. Panda barely blinked. His attention caught somewhere between the present and whatever that faint feeling had been, while Ice Bear stood still, watching in a way that felt deeper than simple curiosity. Another drop slid down the glass. This time Grizz followed it. Not casually, not lazily, but with a strange kind of focus, like something inside him had decided this mattered. The droplet moved steadily, reflecting the dim lights of the room as it passed, and for just a second, something shifted within that reflection. It wasn't clear, not enough to make sense of, but enough to feel. And then it hit him. A flash. Quick, soft, and gone almost instantly. Grizz's expression changed before he could stop it. His grip on the cup tightened slightly, his shoulders tensing just a bit, as his eyes widened in quiet surprise. It wasn't strong or not overwhelming, but it was there. A memory, not fully formed, not detailed, just a glimpse, a feeling of warmth, laughter, the sense of being surrounded by something familiar, something safe. He blinked, sitting up straighter now. "Okay," he murmured under his breath. Panda noticed immediately. "What? What happened?" Grizz hesitated, trying to hold on to it, but it was already fading, slipping through his thoughts like something that didn't want him to stay too long. I think I just remembered something," he said slowly. Panda leaned forward, his curiosity overtaking his calm. "What was it?" Grizz shook his head, a small, confused smile forming. "I don't know. It just felt, nice." That was the only way he could describe it. Nice. Simple, but real. Panda's eyes flickered back to the window, his earlier feeling returning stronger now. "That's what I felt, too," he said quietly. The words hung in the air for a moment. Ice Bear stepped closer. Not rushed, not alarmed, just deliberate. "Rain unusual," he said calmly. It wasn't a question. Grizz let out a soft breath, leaning forward slightly as his gaze returned to the glass. Yeah, it is." Outside, the rain continued without interruption, as if it hadn't noticed them noticing it. The city beyond had faded even further now, lights blurring into soft halos, shapes dissolving into shadow. The world felt smaller, quieter. Like everything that mattered had been pulled into this one space. Another drop moved. Panda watched it closely. Closer than before. And this time, when it slowed near the center of the window, he didn't look away. The feeling came again, stronger, clearer. A quiet moment sitting somewhere warm, holding something close. A soft smile that didn't need a reason. It wasn't loud, it wasn't overwhelming, but it settled into him in a way that made his chest feel just a little lighter. He exhaled slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's happening again." Grizz didn't respond right away, because he was already watching his own. And Ice Bear didn't blink at all. The rain kept falling, soft and endless, each drop carrying something unseen, something gently placed rather than taken. And now, finally, the night had begun to reveal what it was really bringing with it. The room felt different now, not in a way that could be seen, but in the way everything seemed to settle a little deeper, like the night itself had quietly stepped inside and made a place for itself among them. None of the bears spoke, yet there was an understanding forming, something unspoken but shared, carried gently in the rhythm of the rain. Grizz leaned forward slightly, resting his arms over his knees, his eyes no longer drifting but fixed, attentive in a way that was rare for him. Panda sat still, his cup forgotten in his hands, as if even the smallest movement might interrupt whatever this was. And Ace Bear stood closest to the window now, his presence calm but grounded, as though he had already accepted that this night was not like the others. Outside, the rain continued its quiet descent, each drop arriving softly, without urgency, without force. But now it no longer felt like background noise. It felt intentional, like it had chosen this moment. Another droplet traced its way down the glass, slower than the rest, almost careful. The three of them watched it without realizing they had all leaned in, just slightly, drawn by something they couldn't quite name. And as it moved, something moved with it. Not clearly, not fully, but enough to feel, enough to know. This wasn't just rain, and whatever it carried wasn't finished yet. The rain didn't change all at once. It didn't grow louder or heavier in any way that demanded attention. Instead, it remained soft, steady, almost careful, as if it knew that anything more would break whatever quiet moment it had created. And yet something within it had already shifted. Inside the cave, The three bears remained where they were, but the ease of the evening had gently transformed into something more focused. Not tense, not uneasy, just aware. The kind of awareness that comes when something small begins to feel important, even if you don't yet understand why. Panda was the first to move. Slowly, almost without thinking, he set his cup down beside him and leaned closer to the window. His reflection blurred against the glass, mixing with the streaks of rain that continued to slide downward in uneven paths. He followed one droplet in particular, his eyes tracing its movement with quiet intent. It slowed. Not dramatically, not enough to seem impossible, but enough to feel deliberate. Panda's breath softened as he watched it hesitate near the center of the glass, as though it had reached a point where it needed to decide where to go next. For a brief second, everything else faded. The cave, the warmth, even the presence of his brothers, until all that remained was that single drop of rain. And then it came, clearer than before. A memory. Not distant this time. Not faint. Real. Panda blinked, but the image held, settling gently into his thoughts, like it had always belonged there. He saw himself sitting in a small cafe. The soft hum of quiet conversation surrounding him, a warm drink in his hands just like now. Across from him, someone was laughing. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that made the moment feel complete. He couldn't see their face clearly, but he remembered how it felt. Warm, safe, enough. The memory lingered just long enough for him to feel it fully, and then, just as gently as it had arrived, it faded. Panda pulled back slightly, his breath catching in the quiet space between realization and confusion. "I remember that," he whispered. Grizz looked up immediately. "What do you mean?" Panda shook his head slowly, his eyes still fixed on the window. "I don't know. I mean, I do, but I didn't before." The words didn't come out smoothly. They weren't meant to, because this wasn't something he was used to explaining. Another drop slid down. Grizz watched it this time. Closer, more carefully. Ice Bear stepped forward, and the rain continued to fall. Waiting. Grizz shifted closer to the window, not rushing, but no longer as relaxed as before. There was a quiet curiosity in the way he moved now, something pulling his attention forward without needing to explain itself. He rested one hand against the floor to steady himself as he leaned in, his eyes narrowing slightly as he tried to follow the same kind of movement Panda had just described. At first, it was just rain. Simple, familiar, predictable, droplets forming, gathering, slipping downward in uneven trails that merged and disappeared. Nothing unusual, nothing that should have made his chest feel just a little tighter in anticipation. But then one drop caught the light differently. It shimmered. Not brightly, not in a way that stood out immediately, but enough for Grizz to notice, his gaze fixed on it. His usual wandering attention suddenly held in place as the droplet moved slower than the rest. "Okay," he murmured quietly, almost to himself. The room stayed still around him. Panda didn't interrupt. Ice Bear didn't move. The droplet reached the center of the glass, and then Grizz blinked. The cave was gone. Not completely, not in reality. But for a moment, his mind stepped somewhere else, carried gently by something he hadn't expected. He saw a rooftop, not clearly detailed, not sharply defined, but enough to recognize. The sky above it was painted in soft shades of orange and fading blue, the kind of evening that felt like it was holding on to the last bit of daylight. He was there, sitting, laughing, talking about something he couldn't quite remember. But he wasn't alone. There were voices, familiar ones. The kind that didn't need names. The the kind that made everything feel full. Grizz felt it before he understood it. That same warmth Panda had described. That same quiet sense of being exactly where he was supposed to be. And then it faded. Just like that. He blinked again. The cave returning around him as the sound of rain filled the space once more. His posture shifted slightly, like he was grounding himself back into the present. But his expression had changed. Not confused, not scared, just thoughtful. That was real, he said softly. Panda looked at him immediately. You saw something too, right? Grizz nodded slowly, still staring at the window. Yeah. I think so. It didn't feel like I was imagining it. Ice Bear stepped closer now, standing just behind them. His gaze remained steady, focused not on them, but on the rain itself, as if he were trying to understand it in a different way. Memory not random, he said quietly. Grizz glanced back at him. What do you mean? Ice Bear's eyes didn't leave the glass. Rain chooses. The words settled into the room just as softly as everything else had. Panda frowned slightly, turning that thought over in his mind. Chooses what? Ice Bear didn't answer right away, because another drop had already begun to fall, and this time, all three of them were watching. The drop lingered near the center of the window again, slower than it had any right to be, as if it had paused to gather itself. Grizz leaned closer, his eyes reflecting the faint glow of the city lights outside, and in that reflection, he could almost see it. Not clearly, but like a whisper of something just beyond understanding. The air in the cave felt thicker now, though not oppressive. More like it had been folded softly around them, a gentle envelope that held everything they were feeling in place. Panda's hands gripped his cup a little tighter as his eyes stayed locked on the droplet, and Ice Bear didn't move. Yet somehow the stillness of his presence added to the weight of the moment. Then, almost imperceptibly, the drop shifted. It caught the light in a slightly different way, and for a heartbeat, Grizz felt it again, the same quiet memory feeling he had experienced before, but this time deeper, longer. He could see a field bathed in golden light, the kind that softened everything it touched. Laughter echoed there too, faint, almost like it belonged to a dream he had forgotten. His chest warmed, and he instinctively reached out with his thoughts, trying to hold on to it, even as it began to dissolve into nothingness. Panda's brow furrowed. He could feel the pull, too, something brushing against his mind, a shadow of a memory he hadn't realized he missed. A park bench in the early evening, sunlight filtering through trees, and the soft voice of someone talking to him, kind, patient, familiar. It lingered just enough to make his heart swell gently, and then it faded, leaving a soft emptiness that wasn't sad, just quiet. He leaned back slowly, breathing it in, trying to understand what had just happened. It's like the rain is showing us something, he murmured, almost to himself. Grizz's gaze moved between Panda and the window. Yeah, it's not just memories, though. It feels like feelings, too. The stuff you forget you had. He shook his head slowly, a small, awed smile forming. It's weird, but nice. Ice Bear finally spoke again, calm and measured as ever. Rain delivers. Bears receive. He didn't elaborate, and yet somehow the words felt complete, as though they carried a meaning larger than what had been said. Grizz and Panda exchanged glances. They didn't question it. There was no need. The night, the rain, and the cave itself had already begun to explain everything they needed in ways words couldn't capture. Another drop moved down the glass. This one caught the light differently than before, and this time, Grizz noticed the faintest glimmer of color within it, like a memory had left a trace behind, a tiny fragment of gold. It slid slowly downward, tracing a careful path, and Grizz leaned even closer, holding his breath, feeling the quiet pull in his chest that begged him to remember, to feel, to accept. Panda reached forward instinctively, almost touching the glass, though he didn't need to. The memory came to him just the same. He saw a small room he once loved. Sunlight pouring through the windows, books scattered across the floor, and someone sitting quietly in a corner smiling. It wasn't a person he could name, not clearly, but he remembered the warmth and the calm, the safety, the small, perfect kind of joy that leaves no echoes. It wrapped around him like a soft blanket, and even as it began to fade, the feeling lingered, stretching gently over his heart, subtle and unshakable. Grizz let out a quiet, breathless laugh, the kind that doesn't break the calm, just punctuates it. "It's really doing it," he whispered. "The rain, it's really giving them back." He didn't elaborate further. There were no words large enough to contain what they were experiencing. Ice Bear's eyes remained fixed on the glass, steady and observing, as though cataloging every drop, every subtle movement, every hint of memory. The rain continued its soft descent outside, but inside the cave had changed. The quiet, once ordinary, now felt layered with a presence, gentle but undeniable, like a memory itself had slipped into the space between them. And as the three bears remained by the window, enveloped in the warmth of the cave and the soft patter of rain, they understood without speaking that tonight was not a night to pass unnoticed. Something was happening, something rare, something that the world outside would never know, and it was only just beginning. The three bears remained by the window, letting the rain's quiet rhythm fill the space around them, a soft hum beneath their own thoughts. Each drop seemed to carry a gentle insistence, brushing lightly against memories they had tucked away, some so small they hadn't even known they existed, others vivid, yet long forgotten. Grizz felt a warmth that settled in his chest, a quiet smile tugging at his lips as he imagined laughter he hadn't heard in years. Panda's thoughts drifted through faint flashes of old moments, faces blurred but familiar, and a sense of calm he hadn't realized he'd missed. Ice Bear, silent and still, watched every drop with that calm focus that always seemed deeper than simple observation, as though he were cataloging the memories themselves. Outside, the city blurred under the gentle curtain of rain, but inside, the cave had grown warmer, fuller, as if the night itself was bending close to embrace them. The rain had not just fallen, it had remembered, and in its quiet persistence, it began to awaken the past in ways the bears would carry with them long after the storm had passed. The rain continued to fall, each droplet like a tiny messenger carrying something more than water. Grizz, Panda, and Ice Bear watched silently, each caught in their own private reaction to the subtle magic of the night. Grizz shifted slightly, his shoulder brushing the window as he followed a droplet tracing its deliberate path down the glass. With each passing second, he felt more deeply the gentle tug of something familiar, a memory or a feeling he hadn't realized he had been missing. It was faint, almost ghost-like, but it brought with it a warmth that spread slowly through his chest, easing into the quiet corners of his mind. He swallowed softly, letting himself feel it fully, the kind of sensation that made the world outside fade and the comfort of the cave feel absolute. Panda sat a little closer, his cup of tea forgotten now, captivated by the tiny movements of the rain. He too felt the brush of old moments brushing against him, snapshots of afternoons and small, golden pieces of his past, some joyful, some bittersweet. Each one lingered just long enough for him to recognize it, then faded, leaving behind a softness he hadn't felt in years. Ice Bear didn't flinch or move, but his gaze remained steady on the window, focused on the rhythm of the rain and the hidden impressions it left in the air. He understood in a way neither Grizz nor Panda could fully explain, yet he didn't need words. His stillness spoke for him. And as the drops continued to slide down the glass, forming little streams that glimmered in the dim light, the cave itself seemed to hum along with the memories, wrapping the three brothers in a cocoon of warmth and quiet reflection. The city beyond the window had faded almost entirely under the curtain of rain, the world outside distant and dreamlike, leaving only the soft glow of the room and the gentle insistence of the rain. Grizz let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "It's like the rain is alive," he murmured. Panda nodded slowly, eyes still on the moving drops. "Not just alive, it's remembering," he said, his voice soft but certain. Ice Bear's lips pressed together in a small, knowing line. "Rain chooses," he said simply, his calm tone carrying more weight than either of his brothers could explain. Another droplet traced its path slowly down the glass, lingering longer than the others as if testing the surface, and this time all three of them felt it. A memory came to each of them, unique and private, folding softly into their minds, brushing against them like a gentle hand. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The moment was too delicate for words, yet complete in itself. The warmth it left behind filled the room with a presence, quiet but profound, something tangible yet unseen. Grizz, Panda, and Ice Bear remained there, shoulder to shoulder, hearts open to the strange, comforting gift that the rain had begun to offer. And in that silence, in that stillness filled with movement only they could see, the night had changed. The rain had delivered its first secret, the first memory, the first touch of the past, brought softly into the present. And for the bears, nothing would ever feel quite the same again. The rain outside began to shift subtly, almost imperceptibly, yet enough for the bears to notice. Each droplet seemed less random, moving with purpose as if the night itself had found a rhythm that the world beyond the cave couldn't see. Grizz leaned closer to the window, his forehead nearly touching the glass, as he followed the path of one droplet that lingered longer than the rest. There was a strange pull in the air now, a soft tug at the edges of memory, as though the rain carried pieces of the past in each tiny bead of water. Panda shifted closer, hands resting gently on the sill, feeling the quiet rhythm echo in the cave. Another memory brushed against him, a simple moment of sunlight spilling across a courtyard, a laugh shared long ago, fleeting and warm. His chest felt full in a way that made him pause, letting the feeling settle gently, like a soft blanket wrapped around him. Ice Bear, ever still, didn't flinch, but there was a subtle attentiveness in the way he watched each droplet trace its careful path down the glass. He could see the pattern emerging, not fully clear yet, but undeniable. A choreography that carried fragments of things forgotten, waiting to be remembered. Grizz whispered, barely audible, "Look, the drops. They're moving differently now." Panda's eyes widened, following the same trail, a quiet awe in his voice. "It's like they're guiding us." Outside, the city blurred beneath the rain, lights shimmering in puddles, but the bears hardly noticed. Their world had contracted into the warmth of the cave, into the quiet intimacy of what the rain was offering. The droplets seemed to pulse with life, moving together in subtle waves that formed fleeting shapes, each shift carrying warmth, joy and nostalgia, brushing against the bears' hearts in ways words could not express. Grizz leaned in closer, following a particularly slow-moving droplet that paused near the center of the window, and in that pause, a memory pressed against him. He could see a field of golden light, a laugh he couldn't place but felt familiar, and a sense of belonging that settled in his chest. Panda, too, felt the brush of something familiar, a soft whisper of moments he hadn't realized he missed. Ice Bear's steady presence anchored them all, silent but grounding, as if he understood more of the rain's purpose than they could grasp. And the rain kept falling, soft, deliberate, patient, weaving its quiet magic through the cave, through the air, through the unseen threads connecting memory and feeling, letting the bears sit in the comfort of its slow spreading rhythm. The longer they watched, the more the rain seemed to fill the cave with a presence of its own. Grizz could feel it pressing gently against his mind, tugging at the edges of old thoughts and half-forgotten moments. Each droplet seemed to carry something unique, an echo of a day gone by, a fragment of a laugh, a shimmer of warmth that reminded him of being exactly where he belonged. He leaned closer, resting his forehead against the cool glass, letting the soft vibrations of the rain seep into his senses. Panda mirrored the movement instinctively. His hands pressed lightly against the sill as though by touching the glass he could reach further into the memories the rain offered. And Ice Bear remained near, standing tall and still, his dark eyes following each droplet as if reading a story written only in the patterns they formed. The air in the cave felt heavier now, though not unpleasantly so. It was full of quiet life, a hushed energy that wrapped around the three bears in a gentle embrace, letting them sit without speaking, letting them feel without needing to name the feeling. Outside, the rain moved in waves, not chaotic, not scattered, but deliberate, flowing almost like a slow river across the panes of glass. Grizz noticed a particular stream of droplets that seemed to trace a path upward before turning and settling again, as though guided by some unseen hand. His eyes followed it, unblinking, until he saw the faintest glimmer of light caught within the drops. It was subtle, almost invisible, but in it he felt a pulse of warmth, a memory that made his chest swell quietly with a happiness he couldn't yet place. Panda shivered lightly, not from cold, but from the sensation of the rain brushing against him. A memory reached him this time, a tiny, fleeting moment of sitting under a tree with someone he had loved long ago, sunlight warming the leaves above, a soft conversation echoing in the air. He could feel the faint smile on his face even before the memory fully formed, and when it faded, the warmth lingered, wrapping gently around him. Ice Bear stepped closer to the window, his presence unwavering. He didn't speak, but there was a clarity in his stillness, a certainty that, whatever the rain carried, it was meant to be received, not questioned. Another droplet slid down, joining a small stream, and together they seemed to form a tiny cascade across the pane. Grizz and Panda both leaned in, silent, hearts quiet but full, feeling each moment the rain shared as if it were a part of them. And then the effect broadened. More drops began to move together, forming tiny patterns across the window, fleeting shapes that shimmered before dissolving back into randomness. They were hints of something larger, something the bears couldn't yet see, but that was already reaching them, connecting the memories the rain had brought back with something unspoken, something bigger than themselves. The room felt warmer now, though the air had not changed. The light of the rain, the soft reflections on the glass, the subtle dance of shadows in the corners of the cave, all of it combined to create a sense of being wrapped in a world that existed just for them. Grizz's hand brushed against the sill, instinctively reaching toward the slow-moving patterns. He didn't need to touch it. The feeling flowed through him anyway. Panda leaned closer, eyes wide, feeling the subtle pulse of memory and warmth, the brush of moments that weren't his alone, but were meant to be shared by the three of them. And Ice Bear, silent and steady, watched every motion, anchoring them in the present, while letting the rain pull them gently into the past. The rain was spreading now, not just across the window, not just outside, but through the cave, through the space between them, through the unspoken threads that connected hearts and memories. And the bears, wrapped in its quiet magic, understood something profound without words. This night was not ordinary. The rain had chosen them. The memories had chosen them. And whatever it had brought so far was only the beginning. The patterns in the rain grew more intricate, subtle shapes forming and dissolving across the glass, as if the night itself were painting memories for the bears to see. Grizz's eyes followed the slow streams, mesmerized by the way each droplet seemed alive, carrying faint echoes of moments that had slipped quietly into the past. He could feel the rhythm of the rain as though it were a heartbeat, soft but insistent, each pulse nudging at the edges of memory. Panda leaned even closer, resting his forehead against the window pane. The warmth in his chest had grown with every passing drop, a quiet, comforting glow that spread slowly through him. Another memory brushed lightly against him, a small fragment of an afternoon spent laughing with friends he hadn't thought of in years. It was fleeting, almost invisible, yet its presence lingered, like sunlight reflected off a puddle, warming him from within. Ice Bear remained unmoving but alert, watching as the droplets traced patterns that seemed deliberate, almost sentient. He could sense the story the rain was telling, though it was not meant to be spoken aloud. Each small movement carried a piece of life, a fragment of time, a whisper of joy or sorrow that had been waiting for them to notice. Grizz let out a soft exhale, feeling the weight of the moment settle over him in a way that made everything else fade into the background. The cave was quiet except for the rain, yet it no longer felt empty. It was full of presence, full of something unspoken but alive. The bears were not just observing the rain. They were becoming part of its rhythm, their own breaths and heartbeats, sinking softly with the gentle cascade outside. Another droplet slid down the window slowly, pausing mid-path as if it had been told to linger. Grizz and Panda both leaned in, captivated, and in that pause they felt it again, a memory, a feeling, a warmth that seemed to belong to both the past and the present. Grizz thought of a day when the three of them had shared a quiet moment together, simple and unremarkable at the time, but now revealed in the rain as extraordinary, as if the night itself had remembered it for them. Panda felt the same tug, a fleeting image of someone he had once cared for, a smile that had been lost in the blur of time, returning for just long enough to make his heart swell. Ice Bear's calm presence anchored them, a reminder that no matter what the rain revealed, they were safe, together, and capable of receiving what the night offered without fear. And the rain continued its delicate dance, sliding, pausing, forming, and dissolving patterns that were invisible to anyone who wasn't watching closely. It was spreading beyond the window now, filling the cave with a sensation that wasn't just seen, but felt. Every droplet, every soft tap against the glass seemed imbued with intention, guiding the bears to something larger than themselves, a gentle weaving of memory and feeling that connected the past to the present in a way that was tender and unshakable. The warmth of the cave, the quiet rhythm of the rain, the subtle pulse of shared memory, all combined to create a world the bears could inhabit fully, a private universe unfolding slowly, carefully, for them alone. And as the night deepened, the rain spread even further, threading itself into every corner of their hearts, letting them sit in the comfort of its soft, deliberate touch, understanding without words that this night, this rain, was extraordinary. The rain had grown to more than a pattern on the glass. It was a gentle tide that filled the cave with a presence that was almost alive. Each droplet seemed purposeful, tracing slow, deliberate lines that shimmered faintly under the dim light, as though the night itself had lent the water a consciousness. Grizz traced one of the streams with his finger hovering above the glass, captivated by the way it twisted and paused, each movement carrying a sense of intention he could not fully name. His chest felt heavy with something both familiar and strange, a gentle tug at old feelings he hadn't realized he missed. Memories he hadn't known were waiting. Panda mirrored him instinctively, leaning forward, hands on the sill, feeling the invisible pulse of the rain threading through the air. Another memory brushed against him. A fleeting glimpse of laughter shared in a quiet park, sunlight pooling on cobblestones, a voice soft and familiar, gone long ago yet returned in the touch of this night. The warmth lingered in his chest as the image faded, leaving a quiet ache that felt more like comfort than loss. Ice Bear remained at the edge of the window, his stance solid, unshaken, yet attentive to every movement. He seemed to see beyond the reflection, perceiving the unspoken layers of memory carried in each droplet. He understood in ways that neither Grizz nor Panda could articulate, knowing that the rain's patterns were not random, but deliberate, a weaving of time, feeling, and presence meant to reach them in this moment. Grizz watched as a cluster of drops slowly converged, forming a fragile stream that curved and swirled before settling into a delicate cascade. In it he glimpsed the faintest traces of old adventures, the kind that were too small to matter at the time, but now shimmered with meaning, glimmers of laughter, quiet victories, and shared warmth, all carried in the soft pulse of water. Panda shivered slightly, not from cold, but from the sensation of those memories brushing against him. A fleeting image of a quiet afternoon, a sunlit window, and someone speaking kindly, lingered just long enough to warm his chest before dissolving back into the rhythm of the rain. Grizz exhaled softly, letting the sensation fill him, understanding without words that the rain was connecting them not only to the past, but also to one another. Ice Bear remained still, his gaze steady, yet he too could feel the currents of memory threading through the cave, a quiet river of nostalgia and warmth. Outside, the city seemed to blur further, fading into a soft watercolor of light and shadow, as the rain moved in slow waves, spilling over the edges of the world, shaping the night for those willing to pay attention. The bears felt the cave transform. Every sound of the rain, every subtle shift in the patterns across the glass, carried the soft weight of meaning. Grizz felt a warmth pooling in his chest, spreading like sunlight through the gentle drizzle, and realized that the rain was not only recalling what they had forgotten, but also giving them something new, a space to feel, to breathe, to sit in quiet wonder at the beauty of the past mingled with the present. Panda's thoughts drifted through fragments of joy and comfort, interweaving with the sensations of the cave, the soft glow of lamplight, and the gentle pulse of the rain. Ice Bear's presence grounded them, a silent acknowledgement that they were safe, that the night had chosen to reveal this gift, and that it would continue to unfold at its own pace. Grizz watched another droplet trace its delicate line, pause mid-path, and slowly merge with a tiny cascade. He felt something stirred deep within him, a mixture of nostalgia, contentment, and the unshakable sense that the night was alive in a way he had never known. Panda reached out instinctively, hand hovering near the glass, as though the faintest touch could connect him to the invisible threads the rain had woven. The cave pulsed with quiet magic, full of the slow, deliberate rhythm of water carrying memory and warmth. And as the night deepened, as the rain spread further across the window and through the space around them, the bears felt it in their hearts, a shared experience that was intimate, comforting, and profound. The rain was not just water, not just memory. It was a bridge, a quiet reminder of what had been, of what could be remembered, and of the gentle, unspoken bond between them. And in that stillness, in the soft glow of the cave, with the rain falling steadily and patiently outside, the three bears understood something essential, that this night, this rain, was a gift meant to reach them fully, gently and without hurry, wrapping them in the quiet, comforting presence of all that had come before and all that was yet to be felt. As the night deepened, the rain outside seemed to hum with a quiet intensity, no longer just carrying fragments of memories, but stirring them awake within the bears themselves. Grizz, Panda, and Ice Bear remained huddled by the window, their eyes following the delicate trails of droplets as they slid slowly down the glass, shimmering faintly in the soft glow of the cave. Grizz's chest tightened with a gentle warmth he couldn't quite name, a subtle mixture of nostalgia and something richer, something more expansive, that made him feel alive in the stillness of the night. He could see faint images in the patterns of the rain, not clearly but enough to recognize. A picnic shared on a sun-drenched hillside, laughter floating over the grass, voices carrying softly in the warm air. He could almost feel the grass beneath him, the warmth of the sun on his back, and the gentle, unspoken bond of being exactly where he belonged. Panda's eyes widened slightly as another droplet lingered, hesitating near the center of the pane. A memory brushed against him, a quiet moment in a library he had loved as a child, sunlight catching the edges of pages, the soft murmur of someone reading nearby, and the serene happiness of simply being immersed in a world of words and imagination. He drew in a slow breath, letting the feeling settle fully in his chest, the warmth spreading like liquid gold through the quiet corners of his mind. Ice Bear remained as ever, composed yet attentive, sensing the subtle stirrings of memory in a way that was calm but profound. He did not speak, yet his presence anchored the space around them, steadying the other two as the rain began to move more deliberately, forming small patterns that twisted and curved across the glass. Each shape seemed to carry meaning, fleeting and mysterious, yet undeniable. Grizz leaned closer, his forehead nearly touching the cool surface, and felt a surge of familiarity in his chest, a soft tug that made him shiver lightly. Another memory appeared, an afternoon spent running through fields with the three of them together, a simple joy that had long faded from the edges of his mind but now shimmered clearly in the quiet of the night. Panda, noticing the change in Grizz, followed the movement of the droplets, and as he did, another wave of warmth touched him. A moment from the past, small but vivid, returned, a fleeting conversation, a shared smile, a sense of trust and belonging that he had almost forgotten, but now felt as if it had never left. Ice Bear observed silently, his dark eyes tracing the intricate lines the rain made, as though he could read the unspoken stories embedded within each drop. The cave felt alive with quiet resonance. The light from the rain cast shifting patterns across the walls, dancing softly in the corners of the room, and the bears sat together, heartbeats almost in sync, as the memories continued to awaken within them. It was no longer just the past, reaching into the present. The rain had begun to blur the lines between them, making the moments tangible, letting the warmth, the joy, and the soft ache of nostalgia ripple through their chests like a current of quiet magic. Each drop became a small vessel of feeling, a thread connecting the past, present, and perhaps even glimpses of what could come. Grizz pressed the hand lightly to the glass, as though he could catch the fleeting visions and hold them, and Panda mirrored him, letting the warmth settle fully in his heart. Ice Bear's presence was unwavering, a silent reassurance that they were safe to feel, to remember, and to be moved by the gentle magic that filled the night. The rain now flowed in subtle, deliberate patterns, weaving across the window, across the cave, across the hearts of the three brothers. And as each memory stirred, as each feeling surfaced softly in the quiet, they realized that this was no ordinary night. The memories had awakened, not harshly, not urgently, but with patience, with grace, and with a comforting insistence that they were meant to be felt fully in the warmth of the cave and the soft, steady rhythm of the rain outside. As the rain's rhythm deepened, the cave seemed to hum softly around them, a quiet accompaniment to the invisible currents of memory weaving through the bears' hearts. Grizz felt the warmth in his chest expand, pulsing gently with each droplet that traced a careful path down the window. Another memory surfaced, a long-forgotten picnic on a hill under a vast, sunlit sky, the scent of grass, and the soft laughter of companions filling his mind with a delicate ache of happiness. The scene was fleeting, shimmering like a reflection on a pond, yet the feeling it left behind settled deeply within him. Panda, his hand still resting near the cool glass, felt a different echo stir. A quiet moment in a room filled with sunlight and soft shadows, a time of gentle conversation. A warmth that seemed to pulse in perfect sync with the rhythm of the rain. It brushed against him tenderly, like the faintest touch, and his chest swelled with a quiet, unspoken joy he hadn't realized he had missed. Ice Bear remained steady, his eyes following the droplets' deliberate dance across the glass, absorbing the subtle magic that the rain carried. He understood the movement, not in words, but in feeling, the stories embedded in each droplet, the fragments of lives and moments that the night had chosen to awaken. The patterns on the window grew increasingly intricate, almost like a language the bears could sense without speaking, each twist and curve carrying meaning and emotion, whispering of times long past, and of the quiet beauty that could still exist within their hearts. Grizz pressed a hand lightly to the glass, as if he could touch the memories themselves, letting the warmth seep into him, flowing down his arms and settling across his shoulders. Panda followed suit, letting the invisible threads of past and present tangle gently around his heart, allowing himself to sit in the comfort of the moment without fear or hesitation. Outside, the rain flowed in endless streams, yet each drop seemed to carry intention, weaving a network of delicate light and shadow across the window pane. The bears' reflections mingled with the shimmer of the rain, creating layers of presence and memory that intertwined seamlessly. Another wave of recollections brushed against Grizz, a quiet evening spent under the stars, the soft murmur of friendship, the gentle hush of night wrapping around them like a blanket. He felt the sweetness of the memory settle across his chest, a soft warmth that seemed to whisper, reminding him of the depth of joy that could exist in simple, shared moments. Panda felt a corresponding tug, small, almost imperceptible, yet undeniable, a memory of soft laughter, of a gentle word, of the quiet comfort of being understood, of being seen. Ice Bear remained the anchor, his calm presence holding the space steady, allowing the memories to flow without urgency, without interruption, letting them take the bears where they needed to go, The cave itself seemed to shift subtly, alive with a gentle resonance, as if it too remembered the warmth and comfort of the moments the rain stirred within them. Every droplet that ran its deliberate course down the glass carried whispers of the past, some bright and joyful, some soft and bittersweet, each one adding a quiet richness to the room, filling it with invisible threads of warmth that wrapped around the three brothers. Grizz exhaled slowly, leaning his forehead further against the glass, letting the sensations wash through him, each heartbeat syncing subtly with the rhythm of the rain outside. Panda closed his eyes, letting the images and feelings linger, understanding that this was more than just nostalgia. It was a gentle awakening, a subtle reminder that the past was alive within them, waiting patiently to be remembered and felt. Ice Bear's quiet gaze never wavered, holding them in a calm orbit of presence, reinforcing without words that this experience was theirs to receive, theirs to embrace, and theirs to carry forward. And as the night wore on, as the rain traced its infinite patterns across the glass, and the memories awakened with soft insistence, the bears felt themselves dissolving into the quiet magic of the moment, their hearts full, their minds tender, and their spirits wrapped in the unspoken grace of the night that had chosen to remember them. The rain had grown even more alive, every droplet carrying a whisper of something precious, a subtle tug that the bears could feel deep within their chests. Grizz watched the slow stream that twisted and paused mid-fall, catching a faint glimmer of light, and in that shimmer, a memory stirred. It was a long-forgotten moment of quiet play in a sunlit meadow, laughter echoing softly across the hills, and the gentle comfort of being together, safe and whole. He pressed a hand against the glass, as if by reaching toward it, he could hold the sensation in his chest, letting the warmth spread slowly across his shoulders and down his arms. Panda followed instinctively, letting his fingertips hover above the pane, feeling the subtle pulse of memory threading through the night air. Another vision brushed against him, a faint golden afternoon, the soft murmur of conversation, the warmth of trust and companionship that had lingered in the edges of his heart for years. He closed his eyes, letting the sensation fill him fully, surrendering to the gentle rhythm of the night. Ice Bear remained steady, unwavering, but his presence was no longer just a calm anchor. It felt active, like he was absorbing the rain's quiet magic, processing each droplet's story in real time, letting it inform the space around them. He understood that this was not just a fleeting experience, not just a memory. It was a gift, an awakening, a reminder that the past could be present if only one was willing to notice. Outside, the rain traced delicate patterns that seemed more intricate than ever. Each droplet joined with another, forming streams that curved, twisted, and shimmered as though dancing to an invisible melody. The cave, bathed in the soft glow of scattered light, reflected the motion of the rain, and the bear's reflections merged with it, creating layers of memory and presence that felt almost tangible. Grizz exhaled softly, feeling a gentle shiver pass through him as yet another memory surfaced. A quiet evening, the warm hum of conversation, small gestures that had long gone unremembered, all now returning as if the night itself had saved them for this moment. Panda felt a similar brush of warmth, subtle but insistent, as though the rain had chosen to show him the parts of life that mattered most, the little moments of connection, laughter, trust, and the joy of being understood. Ice Bear's gaze remained fixed on the moving droplets, dark eyes absorbing every curve and shimmer, every fleeting shift in the flow. There was an understanding in his silence, a profound acknowledgement that these memories were alive, unfolding carefully, letting them take root in the hearts of the three brothers without rush or interruption. The cave seemed to breathe with them, walls vibrating gently with the invisible resonance of the rain. Every pattern on the glass, every faint reflection of light, contributed to the sense that the night was alive, guiding them, holding them, letting the memories wake slowly and fully within their hearts. Grizz leaned back slightly, shoulders relaxed, letting the warmth settle, his mind open to whatever came next. Panda sat quietly beside him, allowing the subtle pulse of nostalgia to flow through him without fear, without hesitation, feeling the gentle tug of moments long gone but somehow still present. Ice Bear's stillness held them in a steady rhythm, and the cave itself seemed to hum softly in reply, full of life, full of quiet magic, full of the unspoken stories that the rain carried with it. And as the night stretched on, as the rain traced endless paths and memories awakened with gentle insistence, the bears sat together, hearts full, spirits tender, completely immersed in the slow, deliberate magic that the night had chosen to offer. The rain had become a river of light and memory, flowing steadily across the window pane, curling and spiraling in the ways that seemed deliberate, as if the night itself was shaping its path to reach the bears' hearts. Grizz pressed his forehead lightly against the cool glass, feeling the faint vibrations of each droplet as they traveled downward, tracing delicate arcs and curves. A memory emerged, soft and radiant. A quiet morning spent wandering through fields with the three of them together, the sun warming their fur, laughter spilling into the breeze. Small gestures of companionship that had once seemed ordinary but now shimmered with extraordinary clarity. Panda's chest swelled as a gentle warmth spread through him. Another fragment of the past brushing against his mind, a shared smile, a quiet conversation, the feeling of being understood and accepted completely without question. He let himself sink into it, letting the sensation fill every corner of his heart. And the cave seemed to echo softly with the pulse of the memories that had awakened. Ice Bear remained vigilant yet serene, his dark eyes following each droplet, absorbing the subtle shifts in the patterns with a quiet intensity. He understood without words that this was not merely a recollection, but an awakening, a delicate unfolding meant to remind them of the threads connecting past and present, memory and emotion, each small gesture now amplified by the gentle insistence of the night. The patterns on the glass grew more intricate, forming fleeting shapes that twisted and spiraled, fading just as quickly as they appeared, but leaving behind a residue of warmth and recognition. Grizz followed a single droplet as it meandered across the window, pausing mid-path and catching the faintest glimmer of light. In that shimmer, a memory blossomed. A quiet picnic by a river, the hum of conversation, the soft warmth of afternoon sun, and the subtle joy of simply being present in a moment with those who mattered most. Panda's breath caught as another fragment appeared, a faint but vivid glimpse of someone's laughter, a hand brushing lightly against his own, the comfort of connection and belonging that had long been tucked away, now returned in delicate waves. Ice Bear's presence anchored them, steady and unwavering, yet somehow part of the unfolding magic as well. Outside, the rain traced endless streams joining together, splitting, forming small patterns of impossible complexity, each one carrying echoes of life, love, and quiet joy. The bear's reflections merged with the shimmer of the droplets, creating layers of light, shadow, and memory that seemed almost tangible, like threads woven invisibly into the air itself. Grizz exhaled slowly, letting the warmth spread fully through him, the gentle tug of nostalgia, joy and wonder mingling in his chest in a quiet symphony that only the night could orchestrate. Panda closed his eyes, letting each sensation wash over him, letting the memories awaken fully and completely without fear, without hesitation. Ice Bear's calm gaze never wavered, silently holding the space, giving them the freedom to experience each delicate fragment of the past as it rose softly into the present. The cave itself seemed to breathe along with them, walls vibrating subtly with the invisible resonance of the rain and the memories it carried. Each droplet, each pattern, each shimmer of light became a tiny vessel, holding the essence of what had been, the warmth of what was, and the gentle promise of what could be felt again. Grizz leaned back slightly, allowing his mind to drift through the quiet corridors of memory, feeling the soft ache of nostalgia mixed with an immense comfort that filled the space between his thoughts. Panda mirrored him, surrendering fully to the gentle current of emotion that moved through him, letting the warmth seep into every corner of his heart. Ice Bear remained a steadfast presence, the silent pulse of reassurance and strength that held them grounded even as the night wove the rain, the memories, and the soft, delicate magic around them. The three bears sat together, surrounded by the quiet hum of the rain, the subtle glow of the cave, and the awakening of countless memories long hidden, yet now alive and present. They felt the night's magic in every heartbeat, every shiver of warmth, every flicker of light reflected on the glass. And in the stillness of that moment, in the gentle rhythm of the rain and the tender unfolding of memory, they understood something profound, that the past was not lost, that joy and love could awaken again, and that the night had chosen to give them this gift, to remember, to feel, and to be together in quiet wonder, fully and completely. The night slowly began to loosen its hold, the rain outside softening into a gentle, steady drizzle that tapped lightly against the window. Grizz, Panda, and Ice Bear remained huddled together by the sill, their fur damp from the faint mist that had seeped in around the edges, and yet they felt no chill. The cave was filled with warmth, both from the firelight and from the tender glow of memories that the rain had awakened. Grizz's eyes traced the slow movement of droplets as they meandered down the glass, and he realized that each one was no longer just a fragment of the past. They were threads weaving the night itself into a gentle, living tapestry. Panda let out a quiet sigh, leaning his head against Grizz's shoulder, and felt the softness of the moment settle fully into his chest. Another memory emerged, faint but vivid, like sunlight spilling over a quiet park bench, laughter fluttering in the breeze, the gentle reassurance of being exactly where he belonged. Ice Bear's gaze, steady and dark, followed the shimmering paths of the rain, every droplet seeming to carry the wisdom of the night, the echoes of laughter, and the quiet assurance that all the moments, both remembered and newly awakened, were theirs to hold. The drizzle now created a faint, rhythmic melody against the window, like a lullaby only they could hear. Grizz traced the shape of a droplet that lingered at the pane, catching the dim light, and felt the warmth of a memory that stretched beyond him. A sunrise shared after a night of simple adventures, the world fresh and full of promise, laughter lingering in the corners of the morning. Panda's chest tightened gently as he felt the echo of something both long gone and yet somehow immediate. The faint brush of a hand, a soft smile, a moment of pure understanding that had once passed unnoticed, but now shone brightly in the quiet dawn. Ice Bear remained a silent guardian, yet there was a subtle shift in his posture, a quiet acknowledgement that the night's magic was ebbing towards something even more tender. Outside, the rain softened further, droplets forming tiny rivers that caught the first hints of morning light peeking over the horizon. The cave was bathed in a delicate glow, shadows stretching and blending with the soft illumination, wrapping the bears in a cocoon of warmth and quiet wonder. Grizz stretched lazily, feeling the residual warmth from the night's awakening memories mingling with the first gentle rays of light. He let his eyes drift closed briefly, savoring the unspoken promise of comfort, companionship, and quiet joy. Panda snuggled closer, letting the soft rhythm of Grizz's breathing, the faint crackle of the fire, and the gentle patter of rain lull him into a serene contentment. Ice Bear's presence was a grounding force, quiet but potent, the silent assurance that they were safe, loved, and fully present in this shared moment of peace. The memories the rain had carried, the warmth it had stirred, and the subtle magic it had left behind now settled fully in their hearts. Grizz could feel a deep, unshakable calm spreading through him, a serenity born of connection and the gentle unfolding of time. Panda felt similarly, a slow smile forming as he traced the curve of Ice Bear's shoulder with a tentative paw, acknowledging the unspoken bond that had grown stronger throughout the night. And Ice Bear, as always, remained the quiet anchor, sensing the complete circle of the night's magic, the memories awakened, and the cozy safety of the dawn settling around them. The rain had softened into near silence now, leaving only the faintest whispers against the window, and the cave felt timeless, suspended between the night that had been and the day that was gently approaching. Grizz's mind wandered through the soft echoes of the night's journey, the laughter, the quiet moments of wonder, the shared warmth that had become almost tangible in the glow of the cave. Panda's thoughts mirrored the same gentle path, reflecting on the tender awakenings, the quiet joy, and the profound sense of belonging that had been wrapped around them by the night's magic. Ice Bear remained perfectly still, yet there was a quiet satisfaction in the way he leaned slightly closer to his brothers, a subtle acknowledgement that the night's purpose had been fulfilled. The first light of dawn filtered through the trees outside, casting a golden haze over the cave and the bears within. It mingled with the soft glow of the fire and the faint shimmer left by the rain, creating an atmosphere so serene that it seemed to hold time itself still. The three bears remained together, their hearts full of gentle memories, their spirits calm and content, basking in the warmth of the quiet morning. And in that perfect stillness, as the world outside slowly stirred to life, they understood something simple and beautiful, that the night had given them more than just memories, more than just the warmth of nostalgia. It had gifted them the comfort of being together, fully present, completely safe, and profoundly connected. The soft, golden light of dawn grew steadily brighter, spilling through the edges of the cave and catching the faint glimmer of lingering raindrops on the window. Grizz opened his eyes slowly, letting the warmth of the room and the tender afterglow of the rain wash over him. The cave felt alive with a quiet comfort, the kind that doesn't need word, that doesn't demand attention, but simply surrounds you in gentle assurance. He leaned back, letting his paw rest lightly on Panda's shoulder, feeling the steady pulse of calm radiating through his little family. Panda, still nestled close, took a deep breath and let the peace of the morning fill him completely. The last whispers of the night's magical rain mingling with the gentle stirrings of dawn. Ice Bear remained close, silent but profoundly present, his dark eyes reflecting the soft light and the shared warmth of the cave. Every now and then a faint droplet still slid down the window, but it no longer carried the intensity of memory. It was the quiet echo of the night's magic, a gentle hum that reminded them of everything that had come before and the comfort it had left behind. Grizz felt the slow tug of gratitude in his chest, a quiet joy that wasn't loud or overwhelming, but steady, soft, and deeply satisfying. Panda mirrored the feeling, letting himself absorb every nuance of the moment. The gentle warmth in the cave, the soft glow of light, the subtle traces of memories awakened by the night's rain. Ice Bear's presence acted as a quiet reassurance, a steadfast anchor that made the comfort feel safe, untouchable, and absolute. Outside, the world was beginning to stir. Leaves shimmered with the remnants of rain, tiny streams reflecting the first hints of sunlight. A faint breeze carried the cool, fresh scent of early morning, blending with the warmth and glow of the cave. Grizz's eyes followed a few stray droplets that clung to the window frame, watching them glisten before letting go and joining the soil outside. Each one seemed to carry a trace of the night's magic, a lingering echo of the memories, laughter, and gentle wonder that had filled the hours before. Panda, feeling a soft hum in his chest, smiled faintly. The night had been extraordinary, full of subtle awakenings and tender moments, yet it now felt like a gentle prelude to the day to come. A day filled not just with light, but with the comfort of knowing that these memories and feelings were theirs to carry forward. Ice Bear adjusted slightly, letting the small shift remind Grizz and Panda of his steady presence, his quiet support woven into the fabric of the morning. The three bears sat together in the soft glow, hearts slowly sinking to the calm rhythm of dawn. Every small sound, the patter of residual rain, the faint rustle of leaves outside, and the subtle creak of the cave, was absorbed fully, felt deeply, and appreciated in silence. Grizz reached for Panda, their paws brushing softly, a wordless affirmation of the bond that had been strengthened through the night. Panda returned the gesture, letting the warmth settle, feeling fully the steady pulse of love and safety that surrounded them. Ice Bear, ever vigilant but serene, allowed himself a subtle lean into the shared comfort, the unspoken acknowledgement that the night had gifted them something rare, a feeling of complete and unshakable belonging. The cave, bathed in gold and soft shadows, seemed to hum quietly with the residual magic of the rain. It was a delicate, living energy, invisible but tangible, wrapping around them like a blanket, easing every thought into calm reflection. The memories, once fragile and fleeting, had settled comfortably in their hearts, interwoven with the present, shaping an unspoken promise that warmth, connection, and comfort were always within reach. Grizz closed his eyes briefly, letting the serenity of the moment fill every corner of his being. Panda mirrored him, still nestled close, letting the last traces of night's magic linger in a gentle embrace. Ice Bear, steady and silent, held them in his orbit of calm, completing the circle of quiet love and safety that the dawn had unfolded around them. And in that perfect stillness, the three bears felt the world outside begin anew, while the world inside, the cave, the memories, and the gentle warmth of their bond remained timeless, secure, and infinitely comforting. The soft light of morning continued to fill the cave, painting everything in warm, golden tones that mingled gently with the lingering shimmer of rain. Grizz stretched his limbs slowly, feeling the calm of the night settle fully into his muscles and bones, the subtle echo of memories like a gentle hum in his chest. Panda leaned against him, eyes half closed, letting himself soak in the tranquility, the soft crackle of the fire, and the faint rustle of the morning breeze outside. Each sound, each tiny movement, felt amplified in the quiet cocoon of the cave, comforting and unhurried. Ice Bear sat nearby, still as ever, yet every subtle shift in his posture spoke of the deep awareness that the night had offered them a gift, a gift that now extended into the gentle promise of a new day. Outside, the rain had slowed to almost whisper, droplets catching the first rays of sunlight and reflecting them like tiny jewels scattered across the world. Grizz watched a small stream meander down the window pane, following its path as it curled, split, and joined again, and felt a soft rush of warmth in his chest. The patterns reminded him of the night's magic, the way memories had flowed gently into their hearts, filling them with quiet joy, nostalgia, and an unspoken connection that seemed to hum softly in the space around them. Panda's mind drifted to the small fragments of laughter, shared smiles, and tender moments the rain had stirred in the night. Each recollection was a thread in a tapestry of comfort and warmth, connecting the past, the present, and the soft promise of future days. He pressed a paw lightly against Grizz's, feeling the subtle warmth radiate through, a quiet affirmation that they were here together, that the bond they shared had been strengthened by the gentle magic of the rain. Ice Bear's calm gaze swept across the cave, noting the interplay of light, shadow, and reflection. He understood in his quiet way that the night had done more than awaken memories. It had woven them into something lasting, something tender, something that would continue to glow quietly in the hearts of the three bears long after the dawn had fully arrived. Grizz exhaled slowly, letting the peace fill him completely, eyes drifting to the soft shapes of trees and leaves outside, still slick with the morning drizzle. The world felt hushed, suspended in a moment of quiet perfection. And for the first time that morning, he felt as though time itself had paused just for them. Panda followed his gaze, noticing the soft shimmer of droplets clinging to branches, each one reflecting the gentle light like a tiny memory made visible. He felt a slow, steady pulse of gratitude and serenity, letting the warmth flow through him, washing over his fur and settling in his heart. Ice Bear's presence remained the constant, silent reassurance that made the moment feel safe and complete, a grounding force amid the beauty and calm of the morning. The cave seemed to breathe with them, every shadow and patch of light moving in quiet harmony with the bear's own rhythms. Grizz let himself sink fully into the comfort, the subtle magic of the night, blending seamlessly with the soft awakening of the day. Panda relaxed completely, letting the gentle warmth of the cave, the soft light of dawn, and the memory-laden quiet of the night seep into every part of him. Ice Bear's calm, unwavering presence reminded them both that they were not just observers of this comfort. They were participants, fully present, fully alive, and fully enveloped in the tender embrace of the morning. Outside, the world continued its slow stir, leaves sparkling faintly with rain, birds beginning their first soft songs, and the light shifting gently over the landscape. Within the cave, the bears sat together, hearts steady, minds quiet, spirits wrapped in the subtle, lasting magic of the night's gentle awakening. The first real signs of daybreak painted the cave in gentle amber and honey tones, the light slipping softly through the cracks and pooling in quiet patches across the floor. Grizz's eyes traced the golden beams as they moved slowly, shifting with the subtle changes of the morning, and he felt a profound calm settle fully into his chest. Each ray seemed to carry a whisper of the night's magic, a reminder of the warmth, memories, and quiet joy that had unfolded in the hours before. Panda leaned closer, letting the glow of morning mix with the lingering shimmer of raindrops cling to the window, and felt a deep, steady comfort spread through him, as though the cave itself were wrapping them in a gentle, invisible hug. Ice Bear remained perfectly still, yet his presence was palpable, a grounding force that gave weight and solidity to the soft serenity around them. Outside, tiny rivers formed by the last vestiges of rain reflected the morning light in miniature patterns, mirroring the delicate streams that had traced the windows during the night. Grizz followed a single droplet as it meandered slowly down the pane, pausing mid-fall and glimmering with reflected gold. In it, he glimpsed a memory of shared laughter, of playful antics, of quiet evenings spent together. The moments that had seemed small at the time but now shone with extraordinary clarity. Panda felt another echo ripple through him, soft and subtle, a memory of a gentle touch, of a kind word, of an unspoken understanding that had long been tucked away but now felt tangible, a presence he could wrap around his heart. Ice Bear's dark eyes swept over both of them, steady and unwavering, a quiet acknowledgement that these gentle awakenings were not fleeting. They were woven into the very fabric of the morning, the cave, and the hearts of the bears themselves. The cave seemed alive with the soft hum of residual magic, a delicate energy that moved around them invisibly yet tangibly, wrapping them in comfort and quiet joy. Grizz leaned back slightly, feeling the soft heat of the fire mixing with the faint chill of the morning drizzle, letting the contrast settle as a gentle tension in his chest, reminding him of the depth of the night's gift. Panda exhaled slowly, letting the warmth flow fully through him, sinking into every corner of his mind and heart, appreciating the quiet unfolding of the world around him. Ice Bear, ever composed, remained a silent anchor, allowing them both to sink fully into the gentle embrace of the dawn. The memory-laden rain had left behind a quiet magic, subtle yet undeniable, filling the air and the space within them with a calm energy that was both grounding and expansive. The three bears sat together, hearts beating softly in rhythm with the world outside, bodies relaxed, and minds full of the gentle echoes of laughter, warmth, and shared experiences. Grizz let his paw rest lightly on Panda's shoulder, an unspoken reassurance that they were safe, loved, and exactly where they belonged. Panda mirrored the gesture, letting the warmth of connection sink fully into him, grounding him in the moment. Ice Bear's steady presence added a silent, unshakable layer of reassurance, a reminder that this calm, this comfort, this gentle unfolding of memory and magic was theirs to hold on to, fully and completely. Outside, the light strengthened, painting the cave in brighter golden hues, casting long, soft shadows that mingled with the faint sparkle of residual raindrops. The world beyond the cave seemed to breathe slowly, in harmony with the soft pulse of the morning, and within the cave, the three bears felt the perfect stillness of belonging, love, and serene connection. And as the light grew, as the warmth settled deeper, and as the echoes of the night's magic lingered in every corner, they understood, without words, that this moment, quiet, golden, and filled with gentle wonder, was theirs, perfectly and completely, to hold forever in their hearts. The first full light of dawn filled the cave with a soft, golden glow, wrapping Grizz, Panda, and Ice Bear in warmth that felt deeper than the sun itself. They sat together, hearts full, spirits calm, and memories gently settling like the last droplets of rain. Outside, the world awoke slowly. The leaves sparkled with dew, the breeze whispered softly, and birds began their morning song. But inside, the cave held its timeless, tender magic. The night had passed, but its gift remained, the comfort of connection, the gentle awakening of memories, and the quiet joy of being together. And as the bears rested in the soft, serene light, a voice whispered softly, as if from the heart of the dawn itself. Welcome to a new day, filled with warmth, memories, and endless comfort. Thank you for joining us tonight in We Bear Bears, where every raindrop can hold a story, and every moment can be felt fully in the heart. Sleep well, dream gently, and carry this cozy magic with you until the next quiet night. Good night, everyone.